And happy Saturday! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So obviously I haven't been around since a long time, since the last video I uploaded in regards to narcissistic personality disorder. The reason why I took a little bit of time off is because there is some healing that I needed to do, and also got really busy in the office all of a sudden since I posted up my videos. So for those who have been with me since day one, I truly appreciate you guys' support and being here during this time, and also understanding the fact that I don't typically upload my videos like I used to, like it's almost like weekly, because everything has just been getting really busy. So a little bit of life updates for me. I'm actually on my way of getting my hours to become a therapist, because right now I'm just an associate. So I'm an associate marriage family therapist and associate professional clinical counselor. However, I just well, not just, but I ended up getting my finally certified as a life coach from IAP Career College, and also I just became a feng shui consultant as well too. So one of the typical things that I wanted to just make an announcement on is that I am open on weekends only right now for intertwined healing, and a lot of my clients are asking me how come I'm not available on the weekdays, because I work for an agency right now to get those hours. But eventually, once I'm licensed, I'm going to be open on the weekdays and weekends to tailor everybody's needs and all of my clients to make sure that they're getting the services that they deserve. Also, another thing why I wanted to post this video, because there's been a lot of talks about narcissistic personality disorders. Some odd reason, ever since I've been experienced to a lot of these things, what narcissistic personality disorder is, and going through the healing of that myself, a lot of my clients are asking me what are the things that they need to watch out for and the red flags, right? So I'm a narcissistic personality disorder recovery coach. So if you've been encountered with an abusive relationship or abusive friendships that's like consistent dealing with narcissistic personality disorder individuals, or even spiritual narcissistic personality disorders, that can happen. So people just need to be aware that that can consist into to some people. So one of the red flags that I typically let them know to see is that of their personality. So a lot of the times people think narcissistic personality disorders are like, oh, they're very mean, or they're jerk-like, or they're like very abusive, right? Because everybody always knows what physical abuse, mental abuse is, and stuff like that. However, yes, that does take into narcissistic personality disorder. However, encountering one is another story. So people don't know who they are until you get to really know the person. So one of the first traits, well, also too, I wanted to let you know how a dark empath can also mix in with narcissistic personality disorder. So a lot of people are like kind of curious, like, what's a dark empath? Like, what do I need to get worried about that, right? So a lot of the spiritual communities that I've actually went to, that went through narcissistic personality disorders and narcissistic spiritual personality disorders, they've actually encountered those, and they've actually given me an education as to who they are, what to watch out for, and how to stay aware and being careful around them, right? And also how you don't want to trigger these people, because they can get very triggered violently. They can get triggered like in outbursts, very emotional. Sometimes it could even take place into trauma, like putting trauma on yourself. So how do you protect yourself from that? So first of all, when it comes to healing, I usually tell people it's time to really forgive yourself and to really not hold in resentments for the other person. However, though, when you're dealing with narcissistic personality disorder, that's not easy to obtain. So I always tell my clients that do not take, first and foremost, do not take anything personal of a narcissistic person, because the truth of the matter is they're dealing that within themselves. They have this grandiose idealization of themselves. They feel very high-powered and mighty, like very arrogant, they very feel like, oh, they can be they have this hero complex sometimes too. That's what some spiritual healers tend to do, like they can do it all. But the truth of the matter is, that is absolutely not true. I'm a healer myself, but I know my limits, where I tell people I can't help you with certain things because I'm not tailored for that. And I've met some folks who actually tries to be like, oh, I can do it all. I'm like, That's not true at all. And when people always tell me, oh, I don't get offended, I don't get hurt, nothing like that, especially when it's coming from a spiritual healer, that's absolutely not true either. Because I've met so many spiritual folks, they do get offended. They do have feelings. They're human. They're also still humans. Don't, just because they have this title of being a healer, or they're this, they have this persona of being charming. So those are your first red flags. So that doesn't mean that they don't have feelings and they don't have insecurities or they don't have doubts. They do. So you have to be really careful about who you're, coaching with, who are you healing with. You want to be able to ask some credentials. Before I get going with the spiritual narcissistic parts, let's go ahead and go with the normal humanistic traits of narcissistic personality disorders. So yes, it does exist. I do have a background in psychology, so I do study this a lot, and I study this when it comes to spirituality as well. So I kind of mix it with the both. That's the best thing about what I do. No, I'm not a perfect human being. I make mistakes. I do go through things like all normal human being does. Just because I'm a healer, just because I see things, I have psychic abilities, that doesn't mean I don't get offended. I don't have feelings. There's days like I'm not okay because I have healers like that. And that is totally fine. It's okay to admit that. But when you have healers that tries to act like they're okay, they don't need anything, they're fine, it's a red flag. So you have to be really careful who you're dealing with. So first and foremost, with the human parts of narcissistic personality disorder, and also with the spiritual narcissistic personality disorder, we call them the dark empath. This is the first red flag that you need to watch out for. And then I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys that on my next clip. So the first trait of narcissistic personality disorder and spiritual narcissistic and narcissistic personality disorders is the first red flag. It's the charming approach. So I'm going to just tell you straight up right now. You're going to just see what you're going to see. Whatever you met me as, that's pretty much who I am. I'm like, there's no sugarcoating. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to hit it where, it's going to hit where it hurts, but it's not to the point where it's like, it's gaslighting or questioning your realities. No, it's more of like, it's my persona of what I saw, what I observed, what I felt. And whatever it is that you take into that, it's up to you. I don't push people's, perceptions or realities to my own. I literally give my clients a chance to be like, what do you think of the things that I've said? Is this what's happening to you? So the first red flag of NPDs, especially spiritual NPDs, is the charm. So if first offhand, when you meet them, when they're already telling you, I love you, or, you're such a good thing, and it feels like you have so much commonalities with them, it's almost similar to meeting a false twin flame. That's how bad this is. So when you're meeting them and they're mirroring, that's what it's called. It's called the mirroring effect. So when they're feeling like charming, and then they start asking you questions like, oh, what kind of traumas did you go through? Or what kind of things that you went through as a childhood? Or what's your favorite food, for in fact, or whatever, whatnot, right? And the minute that you say something and they're like, oh my God, me too. That's something that I went through as well. I understand where you're coming from. I'm going to be very honest with you as a therapist and a life coach. We do not understand everything that you guys are going through. That is absolutely not true. When someone is saying, I understand what you're going through, that is completely a lie. So please be very careful with that. Like, that's some of the things that I've learned in my lessons. I have family members that does this as well, and it's very ear aching and it's very heart wrenching. So I usually tell myself, like, what, I'm not perfect. There's going to be days like I probably won't be able to heal you and I don't have that capabilities. And I'm very open and honest with that with clients. But some of these healers and some of these people who's trying to put you in a romantic state of mind, who's trying to win a friendship with you, if they're way too charming, it's too good to be true, then the chances of you probably need to start asking questions. So that is absolutely not true. Not everybody has commonalities. Twin flames, absolutely, they can be. But twin flames can be narcissistic also, so you have to be really careful with that. But you also have to start asking yourself some questions too from within. People always tend to ask me, am I narcissistic or whatever, whatnot? These are my clients, right, coming in. If you're asking questions, if you're narcissistic, the chances of you are not narcissistic at all. So you're asking questions, you're coming in for healing, you're not narcissistic. Narcissistic people do not tend to look for healing. They don't tend to look for any type of therapy whatsoever. And I'm a therapist. This is going to sound really terrible. I used to badmouth therapists a lot because I had a teacher back then who really put that in my mind that, oh, therapy doesn't help, it doesn't really heal, da da da. That's not true at all either, because I've met so many wonderful therapists lately, especially in my recovery right now regarding to the narcissistic personality abuse. I was even questioning myself. That's how bad it was. Like, am I narcissistic? Am I the one trying to take control or whatever, whatnot? And that's funny because my therapist and also my life coach now that I talk to, and my spiritual healer that I talk to who went through narcissistic spiritual abuse, they literally told me, if you're asking questions, if you're narcissistic, the chances of that you are absolutely not, because you're still looking for healing even after you were burned by somebody who you really trusted, right? And that could happen. I mean, I don't take it personal with them. Why? Because that's their own perception, that's their own reality, that's on them. That's one of the biggest red flags that I overlook is the charming part. If they're telling you I love you on the first state of mind, like the first state of meeting each other, that's a big red flag, because none of my healers, they didn't form any kind of friendship with me. And I was like, for me, I was kind of weirded out a little bit, but they're not to the point where they're disrespectful as well either. They really kept things very professional. And they did, in a sense, they did kind of form a friendship with me, but in a sense where it's healthy. It's not love bombing. They're not charming me. They're literally showing me their authentic self. Like they tell me, like, I am not perfect, but I'm not going to tell you the trauma, what's going on with me because it's too soon. That's a normal trait. Like, it's okay to not have to reveal what happened to you in your life, because you still want to be able to process a trust with your healers, whether it's a therapist, a life coach, or a spiritual Reiki healer. You want to be able to form that trust. And that's the same thing that I do when I meet with my clients. When I do this 30-minute connection, I want to be able to let them build that trust with me to the point where I don't want you to waste your money. I want you to receive the best healing from me. And I want you to be able to come to me from an authentic place. And I want you to understand that this is for you. It's your heart. It's your intention, not because of me. What I typically do when I do my healing is I ask questions as to what they're looking for. And also on top of that, I don't give them those promises or guarantees. I always let them know it is your inner work. It is within yourself. That's how you're supposed to be as, when you're going through this healing journey. Your healers are there for you, but they are not here to control you. I'm not here to change you. I don't want to do that. And I definitely don't want to change your realities or your perceptions. That's solely on you too. If you're having a different belief from mine, I'm all ears. I am not going to object that. And I'm not going to say, oh, I don't believe in that, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I'm not going to push my own beliefs. That is your perception. I'm not going to say you're wrong or you're right, because your intuition and in your heart is what matters. And honestly, I would never charm anyone because, again, you see what you get. You're going to just hear what you need to hear from a professional standpoint. And yes, I place a boundary on myself and for and for other people. They understand when they first come in, there's already a rule and there's already like a place where what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So a lot of people always ask, how come you don't form any type of friendship with them? Because once I'm working with you professionally, I can't put my personal feelings aside. Otherwise, it becomes very complacent and you start becoming comfortable. And I don't want to do that. So that's why I separate my friendship to my professionalism. That's why I respect my healers right now where they're at. As some of them don't even have any group meditation in person yet or anything like that, because they don't want to form this complacent energy, because they want them to go through their healing process. But once they're okay, like they can detach themselves from, knowing, understanding friendship and also professionalism, and they're not working with me anymore, sure, I'll be more than happy to build that friendship with them. But if you're still working with me professionally as a therapist, as a life coach, as a healer, I can't put that personal feelings as there as with friendship, because it doesn't work that way. It will never work. So charming is the first red flag when you're meeting a narcissistic personality disorder and a spiritual narcissistic personality disorder. Second red flag that you probably will need to understand, now I'm going to go through the NPD, is the fact that you start noticing that they are becoming, and also spiritual narcissistic personality disorder healers do this as well too. So the second red flag that you need to watch out for is how they treat other people once they have gotten to know you. If you have known this person who has NPD for at least 1 to 2 years, notice how their behaviors are starting to change. They're starting to get bored. They get bored very easily. They do not like to stay home. They do not like alone time. They always want to have a grand party. They always want to be around people that can show their persona. And the reason why they do this is because, especially if you're in a relationship, whether it's man to man, woman to woman, or as a couple, man woman, whatever it is that you're in a relationship of, an NPD person loves to have a grandiose type of party gathering. Sometimes they even tend to have group sessions, and this goes for everyone who has NPD. For me, I crave alone time. I used to be able to be like, I wanted to be always out and be around friends, but then I started thinking about it, like, oh my God, that's when I started thinking about, am I narcissistic? Am I this? And my therapist and healer literally keep on telling me, they're like, no, Rita, you are not. I'm like, at that time, you wanted friends and people around because you're probably just looking for that connection, because that is absolutely true. Sometimes when you're looking for friendship and group, you want to have a connection with somebody. You want to be able to just talk to someone because you don't know who to talk to, which is absolutely true. But ever since I went through my healing journeys with spiritual Reiki healers, life coaches, and then also with a therapist, I started realizing I'm starting to crave my alone time. I love my alone time because it gives me the chances to recharge. It gives me a chance to be reflective with myself. And usually NPDs don't do that. They don't crave that alone time. They always want to be with somebody, or they get bored really easily. So they always want to go out. They always want to do something. For me, I'm craving my alone time. If there's a chance that I get to stay home and sleep, watch TV, read, just be alone, I am so happy. Like, I've never been this happy just being alone for such a long time. But back then, yes, when I was really unhealed and I was looking for that support and I didn't know who to turn to, I was always craving for a connection. Now that I've had different healers, different people that has given me a light of the darkness, and also understanding NPDs, other things that were going on in my life, I'm actually loving my alone time. I don't want to typically spend too much time with people for a very, very long time. And it's good because it's like, it's a time for me to reflect and to recharge my body. So you'll notice that from an NPD, that over time, if you have gotten to know them for 1 to 2 years, they are going to start looking for new supply. So which means new people. So because they tend to get bored very, very easily. So spiritual narcissistic personality disorders tend to have a lot of parties, like almost every month, every week. And like I said, if they're spiritual healers, therapists, life coaches, Reiki healers, they don't tend to put in their professionalism and bond of friendship with their clients. Why? Not because that we don't want to. It's because of the fact that we want them to have the best healing effect, meaning we don't want to tend to end up becoming biased in regards to what's going on with them and with their individuality. And if we form a friendship, we're going to start sharing all those different energies, especially they're not fully healed yet. They don't understand yet. They're not learning just yet. They're just starting. I'm like, you can't do that. So you have to really separate yourself from that. For a regular NPD, they tend to look for a new supply. That's why they say, if you've noticed some of your partners or your spouse, starts cheating on you, that's why they start having these gatherings and parties, because they want to put in a persona to their family members and friends that they're very charming. Oh, when you start complaining, like, oh my God, like this person is so mean to me, da 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 da, and they have all this group of people that they literally saw who they were, quote unquote, saw who they were. They don't know them 1 to 2 years like you did. They start looking at you like you're the one who's crazy. You're the one who's like, no, it doesn't match what you're saying. I think you're lying. That's absolutely not true. Please, for those who are watching these videos, if somebody is telling you something that they don't feel safe or they don't feel comfortable with the person, the chances of they're telling you the truth. And you're the one who's actually getting manipulated by an NPD person. If an NPD person is literally trying to sway you with their tears, like, oh my God, like this person is doing this to me, da 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 da, like acting like they're the victim, or they felt like they were hurt by someone, the chances of they're probably lying. Because most likely the victims who are in NPD abuse, they actually really don't say anything. They're scared. I will be the one to say it often to you guys, like that they're absolutely scared. They don't want to say anything to anybody, because they don't want anybody to find out the shame and the guilt that they're going through. Because if they express themselves like, I'm really not liking this person, or I don't feel good about this person, da da da, they're gonna start questioning, like, then why are you still in the relationship? Then why are you still talking to them? Why are you still hanging out if that's how you're feeling, right? That's why they don't even say anything, because they already know what's going to come up ahead. But for NPD folks, they have no shame to actually tell them what's going on. And they will actually twist stories. Oh, this is actually true. I've heard this a lot with my clients. They twist a lot of stories. That's why it's so funny whenever I do have couples counseling, or not couples counseling, sorry, it's couples coaching. Like when they come in, I can already right away know like what I need to do to help them. I recently just had a couple who came in, in the very start of my office being opening. And for some odd reason, I just felt like something wasn't right. Like, at first, in the beginning, I was like thinking, oh, it could be the other person, because this person reached out to me. I'm like thinking, okay, they're reaching out to me. They're looking for healing. I was like, this person must be going through a narcissistic personality disorder abuse, right? Because the way this person was telling me the symptoms of what's happening in their relationship. And I'm like, okay, there's serious NPD going on here. And then finally, when I met both of them, that was absolutely not true. I was so off base on that conversation with that person who reached out to me. I was like, wow. I was like, I do not feel that from this person. I felt that from the person who reached out to me. And that was really scary, because I didn't even continue on with the coaching, because I already knew NPDs are never going to change. You can't change those people. They are stuck in their ways. Whatever it is that they feel like they have a reality on, that's their reality. That's the same thing with spiritual healers. They will put perception in your mind that you're the one who's crazy. You're the one who is the unhealed one. They'll gaslight you, and you're going to start gaslighting yourself. You're going to start questioning your reality. Like, because it took me a long time to get myself out of it. If it wasn't for the healers that I was in today, I wouldn't be able to heal the people I'm healing today. Like, literally, they were like telling me, like, stop gaslighting yourself, Rika. Like, stop questioning your own reality. Like, no, it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to not be positive all the time. You don't have to do any of that. That's not what spirituality is about. Spirituality is to embrace your darkness, to go towards the light. So if you're not okay, you're not okay at that moment. And your healers has to respect that. And I respect that. If you're not okay, I'm okay with that. Because there is this thing called over positive toxicity. So over positive toxicity is really bad. So those are 2 red flags. Another thing for NPDs is that, okay, so the second red flag that I talked about is they always get bored and they always want to end up having a party or group of people. Why? Because this is called the triangulation. So triangulation is typically manipulating other groups of people. So that way they end up knowing that if something goes south in their relationship with somebody, they're going to perceive you as crazy, and they're going to have these people on their side. That is so ugly. So triangulation is something that I've actually encountered already. within my family members, spiritual communities, and also even in my friendship. That's happened. And they turn them into flying monkeys. So that's why they create this group of people and they have this grandiosity party because they want to show off their charm, how they charmed you. But once they know you for 1 to 2 years, that charm that you thought you knew and that you thought that that's the person, it's gonna go away. That is not who they are. That is completely a lie. So you have to be careful. People who are very authentic and true, they will show you truly who they are, even their imperfection. For me, I tell them all the time, listen, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not perfect. And, you're going to see what you're going to get. It is what it is. You like it, you don't. You have the chance to stick around to it, or you can just walk away from it. That's it. But the thing is, this is another thing that's a big trait about narcissistic personality disorders and spiritual narcissistic personality disorders is that there is a third red flag. So I usually teach this into my coaching. So there's more than 3 red flags that I'm going to mention, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys the third one. The third red flag that you guys need to watch out for, and I'm going to tell you guys in this next clip. Okay. So the third red flag that I'm about to mention to you guys next is called the punishment of an NPD. So this one is very traumatizing because this happened to me quite a lot. My mother did it to me, and then recently a friend did it to me as well too. And there was more than one friend actually, and I was livid because I'm not the type of person to be silent. I'm very, very empowered with my voice. And I share the same thing with all of my clients. Don't be muted by someone who literally doesn't give you a chance to explain. When someone tells you that there's no explanation needed, that's not true either. That's absolutely incorrect. And that's very traumatizing. So explanation, if you want to explain yourself, you have every right to do so. If you want to share your feelings, you want to share your experiences, you want to share, you are allowed to do that. And you're allowed to explain your side. And you're allowed to fight for that voice. You're not changing the other person, but you're literally letting them know who you are. Accept me for me or you don't. Basically, their punishment is called the silent treatment. Yes, this is absolutely traumatizing because I used to remember my mother did it to me. It's a revenge tactic. So NPD and spiritual NPDs, they do this a lot. So anytime when you're not liking what they're doing and you're questioning them, like for example, if you are in an NPD relationship and you're just asking a question, right? You're literally just questioning it because you're questioning your sanity. Okay, first and foremost, you're questioning your sanity. You're questioning your mind. So of course you're going to ask the individual, okay, what's true and what's not true? Is there something wrong with that? Absolutely not. Absolutely, you have every right to talk about that and to really explain yourself and to have the other person explain themselves as well too. It's not fair for somebody to not have closure or to not talk about your feelings and to work things out. When someone gives you a silent treatment, it means that they have nothing to say, and it means that they're literally lying to themselves and they're having some insecurities that they're about to get found out about who they truly are. And that's the reason why they tend to give you the silent treatment. Or they start making you perceive your realities. They start gaslighting you. They start manipulating your mind, and they start asking questions like, are you sure that's what I said? I don't think you remember. That is so rude. I'm like, if you hear things like that, that's rude. First and foremost, I'm like, you know what you said. So don't question your reality. You know what you said. When someone else tells you like, oh, are you sure that's what I said? I don't think you remember clearly. I don't think you're listening. When someone's telling you things like that, that's called gaslighting. That's called perception of their reality. And then after that, if you question them again and they don't like it, the fact that you're putting boundaries on them and to yourself, and even saying no, like that's not what I recall. I'm like, this is what you said word for word. And then they start getting defensive. So what do they do in defense? Silent treatment or start blocking you. So that's exactly what they do. They don't explain themselves. If they are truly a healer and if they truly want to work things out with you and they really want to help you, explanation comes a long way. I explain myself a lot with my clients. So anytime when my clients question something, I really do give them an answer. And then if there's really no answer, I tell them I really don't know, to be honest with you. Like, a lot of NPDs and spiritual NPDs will never say I don't know. They don't know what to say, but they literally try to deflect it, because you know why? They don't want to be seen with their imperfections. And that is so awful. So for those who have gotten through the abuse of gaslighting and silent treatments, I really do feel bad for what you guys are going through, because I went through that too as well. There's absolutely no closure. It's very traumatizing. It's very heart aching, because you wanted to work things out. You really still wanted to stick around with this relationship. You still wanted to have, a wonderful connection with them, but for some odd reason, they just ghosted you. They gave you the silent treatment. They don't explain themselves, and they're not even showing their imperfections. They always show like, oh, they know what they're doing, and they don't like being questioned. So if they're not liking being questioned and they give you the silent treatment, the chances of, don't even look for that explanation anymore, and don't even look for that closure anymore. Do the exact same thing, walk away from it and block. Because the truth is, the chances of the person that you met that did not exist. They actually just mirrored you. Remember, the first red flag I told you guys is the charming effect. So if they're like lovable, charming, and they act like they have something in common with you, that's called false twin flame, and also that's called NPD. So you really need to really watch yourself and really pay attention, because when someone's having a genuine connection with you, you want to be able to speak with them with full heart. Like my healers and the friends that I made lately, I never had any of that charming effect. Like they're really like, we really want to get to know you. Like we really want to know what you're working with, what you're doing, and that's really good to ask questions. And they're asking me credentials. That's really good. For me, that was my mistake. I did not ask for credentials. I did not ask. And then also another thing too that you guys need to understand, when you're looking for spiritual healers, you need to understand that they follow ethics as well. They really don't have this friendship relationship thing. It's weird, because it's the same thing as therapists. We don't form that kind of friendship bond. We are very loving communities. Don't get me wrong. We love the kinship of friendship, but we don't do that when we're working with them in their healing process. Like I said, we want them to have the best healing effect. We don't want to interrupt that energy with our own personal energies along with them. So there is called the spiritual association laws and ethics. So I never even know that until I talk to a lot of spiritual healers, including Janet Shu. Janet Shu is actually the one who created the self-love oracle card, which is right over here. I use them in my readings these days because I went through NPD abuse and spiritual NPD abuse. So this is definitely something that I typically do in my readings, because apparently I'm not the only one that went through it. There's so many people that went into my office that's gone through it. And I always tell them to please do your research, to please understand what narcissistic personality disorder is and abuse, so that way you don't fall into that trap. That's why I wanted to give you guys the red flags here on this video. So more than likely Janet Shu went through the same experience I did. She had a spiritual healer that she went through coaching, did partnership with everything. She did everything. And I read her story and I said, dang, dude, that just nailed it to the heart, into my place. Like I could not even believe that. I thought I was alone. I was going crazy. I really thought it was just me. But the truth is, I had so many healers that said, no, it's not you at all. You didn't do anything wrong. You're looking for healing. You are not narcissistic, because you're still trying to heal yourself. Even though I'm a healer, I'm still going through that healing process, you guys. I really am. And for you who's going through my healing with me, I'm proud of you guys, because you guys are looking for some type of, peace, contentment, and understanding where your life challenges is. And that's the reason why you guys went through me. Or even other healers. I'm not losing sleep at night if you guys go through other healers, but I do want you guys to be really careful. So if you guys end up having, like for example, if you have modular lessons, please make sure to use copy and paste and put it on Google, because I'm telling you, you want to make sure that they are doing credible sources. So for me, luckily I went through school, so I know how to do credible sources on my modular lessons. Yes, some of the modular lessons that I have, it came from different types of healers, different types of authors that I do research on. Okay, so you guys don't have to do it. This is the reason why we do the work that we do. However, I put credibility source. I always have a source right there, and I always let you know who the author is, and I always send you guys the link to read it for yourself, that you know it's true, that it's very, very credible. There's healers out there that unfortunately just copies and pastes a lot of things. So make sure you understand, if the module matches how they speak, the chances of the modular lesson is something that they went through. But if the modular lesson and the written paper is not matching, then you need to start questioning yourself a little bit. Maybe it's time for me to Google and paste, because you want to make sure that it's credibly sourced, okay? Not saying that, you can't use, for life coaches out there, spiritual healers out there, I'm not saying you can't use some of the knowledges that's out there in the internet world. Yes, you can, but you need to put credible sources in there, and you know how to write your thesis paper for your clients to see that. So for my clients, I want you to just go ahead and just really ask questions where their credible sources comes from, okay? Where their coaches come from, how long do they do their readings, how much, what are their certification coming from? Ask all those questions. Those are one of the things that I didn't ask when I was going through this healing process. This time around, I am asking credible sources. I'm asking certification. I'm asking educational hours. I'm asking, what are their traits, gifts, and everything. How did you find out, etc., etc. I went through a lot of them, and you can ask me one-on-one. I'm not going to share you guys this on the video because I tend to keep that confidential. But if there is something that you want to ask me in person about where my sources came from, you're more than welcome to ask. But I do have Reiki healers here in Concord. Her name is Elena. Very, very sweet, loving energy. Love her energy as a Reiki healer. She is my Reiki healer and my Reiki master as well. And also on top of that, I met Oliver. Oliver has been doing this work for quite some time, and I've shared that to you guys on the videos as well. Dr. Romani, I read her book, It's Not You. I showed you guys that on my previous video. Very life-changing, very healing. I watch her YouTubes all the time, and she is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful person, because she also knows spirituality, and she also knows narcissistic personality abuse disorder. So definitely something that you guys have to really watch out for. All right, I don't want to take up too much of your time on this beautiful Saturday morning. However, though, I do want you guys to understand that I do offer narcissistic personality abuse and recovery coaching programs here at Intertwined Healing and Therapy. So if you are interested in that, please make sure to book an appointment with me. It is not very pricey at all, and that's another red flag that you need to watch out for with life coaches. If it's way too expensive, if you're not Tony Robbins or Oliver Nino, and you're charging up to $2,300 $2,300 for a coaching sessions, you need to be really careful with that. Coaching sessions and therapy sessions are not expensive. They're literally they're kind of expensive, but it's literally no more than between $129 to $165 per session, okay? If somebody is giving you a package like, it's $2,300 or $2,400, that's probably not a good idea. You need to really do your research and really ask questions where their credible source is coming from, where they're getting their lessons from. Because I can promise you, you're going to be paying thousands of dollars for some things that may not even help you, and you can probably find online. So be diligent with your research. This is coming from a place of a healer. And this is coming from a place of a person who actually has a healing agency, a spiritual sacred space that you guys can come through. And no, I don't do any group sessions at this time because I don't believe that it's necessary to do that unless you all of my supporters and people who come in who want to do that. I can try to form that for you guys, but I don't necessarily want to do that because it's a lot of collective energies. I don't want to swap it up with different people, and I definitely don't want to interrupt you guys' healing energies, especially when you guys are just starting off. So 101 is typically what I like to do first. And plus, I don't want to build a cult. So if you met Shalea and Jeff from Twin Flame University, yes, that is a cult. So if you guys are looking for Twin Flame healing, please do not go to them. Very much falls very expensive at the matter of fact. Like I said, if it's way too expensive, it's probably not the best to sign up with them. If they are sessions like between $129 to $200 per session, the chances of they're very legit. I've had healers who does sliding scales as well too, installments. If they're very much into sliding scales, those are definitely honest healers. I would definitely recommend them to really go ahead and pursue that. But overall, if they're really aggressive and very sales pitchy, if they're too sales pitchy, that's another thing that you need to look up for narcissistic personality disorders of who they are. If their occupation is in sales, I'm not saying all sales are like this, okay? But if their occupations are in sales, nothing more, nothing less, then most chances of they have narcissistic personality disorder. And they're very, very business savvy. That's probably the reasons why they very much successfully, they become successful in business. It's because they have that salesy pitch. But however, if you're going through spiritual healing and trauma healing, you really need to go through a very professional therapist, and also that has certification of EDMR. Those are the ones. Research EDMR. It's called eye desensitization movement, and I think it's recovered, but I'm not sure. So EDMR is something that I also do in past life regression and shamanic healing. It's very similar, but this one is for more people who have intense mental health disorders and also who really wants to go through that deep healing. So just, research that. And as well for shamanic healings and past life regressions, that's something that I do. If that is something that you want to check out as to why you met certain people in your life, we can definitely dive and explore that. So I do that typically with folks one-on-one. No, I will not do that again in group sessions because it's too much of a collective energy. And I don't want to disturb any healing energies that I, perform with my one-on-one clients by swapping energies with a bunch of groups. So, and definitely I want to be able to give you guys that trust where I'm not forming flying monkeys, okay? So if you're noticing that there's too much group session and group effect, then that means that they're forming some kind of bond of flying monkeys when it comes to NPD. I'm not saying that's not everything, Like I said, there's some retreats out there that's like very legit, very loving, but again, you have to ask questions. You have to ask the credibility source because that's super important, okay? Like I said, if you are going through domestic abuse, please make sure to call the 988 hotline. You're not alone in that. And also on top of that, call your crisis hotline to make sure that you get your help. And also get yourself some therapy session or life coaching with lots of educational credible source because they understand how to manage these emotions and how to manage your energies. Spiritual healers, please understand, if you're following the spiritual association ethics, laws and ethics, please research on that to understand your clients. And also make sure for my clients, ask questions if you're following that law as well too, because that's very important when you're going through the spiritual journey. Because again, everything that takes place in our conversation is very confidential. It's stated in my informed consent, and it's informed with everybody in my website as to what I can do, what my limitations are, and everything. As far as this video, I know it was really long, but it was very important for me to share because I don't want you guys to go through what I went through. But however, I went through it because it's to help the greater good, for the highest good. Until then, I really appreciate all of you guys for being here. My day ones, thank you so much for still being here. For those who removed me, I forgive you. It is what it is. That's all you, but I am not here to feel guilty about my voice. I'm not here to feel guilty of my experience. I love who I am. I adore who I am. And no, it's not from an arrogant place, but it is something that I really embrace now, my imperfections, my flaws. And yes, I will continue to explain myself because as a normal human being, we should be. And if you were silent treated by somebody, you have somebody you can talk to, which is with me, and you can go through that healing so you can get your voice back. All right, everybody, have a wonderful Saturday. Please stay awake, stay aware, and be mindful with yourself. Ciao, Bella. Have a beautiful day.